Okay, outstanding performance by our guys Saturday night. I'm proud of the way they got ready during the week and prepared themselves and came out and played well, particularly on defense. I mean, it was the numbers put up on defense were numbers that it's like first quarter numbers, but it was the entire game, and so it was pretty impressive. But that's now in the rearview mirror. Moving on, got a tough road trip to Seattle, playing the Huskies. Really good football team, good personnel, quarterback, big strong kid with a big arm, solid, just a solid team across the board, and like I said, it'll be a big challenge for us. Haven't fared real well there since we joined the league, but we got a new challenge and a new opportunity this year. So, questions?
Looking at your past defense, last couple of games, Arizona State and California had a combined 2.1 yards per pass attempt. What has really been the key to your past defense getting up to that level?
I don't think it's just one thing. It starts at the line of scrimmage. I can tell you that for certain. The pass rush has been outstanding, and even though we haven't had a ton of sacks, we've got the quarterback under duress a high percentage of the time, and that's where it starts. The coverage in the back end has been outstanding. I think just the mixture of zone and man coverages that Coach Scally has dialed up has been positive as well, and the under coverage, the linebackers have been doing a nice job of matching up in their zone concept. So I think it's a combination of things. But where does it start? It starts at the line of scrimmage. That's the first step in playing great pass defense is at the line of scrimmage.
Washington, as you said the other night, is coming off a bye. In all your years of preparation, have you noticed when teams come off byes, do they do maybe more things that you haven't seen in a given season when they're coming off that bye?
Typically, yeah. Typically, there's some new wrinkles that haven't shown up in the earlier games. Also, it's a good time for specials, trick plays type of things. You get extra time to do that. And now Coach Peterson, he's a master at that anyway, the specials, and so you've always got to be ready for anything, I guess you could say. I mean, they do a great job with that, and so. But there's going to be things we're certain of that will show up on Saturday that have not shown up previously.
When you watch Washington's passing game on offense, what do you think? What do you see?
Good stuff. I mean, they got good receivers. They have a 40-catch guy and a 30-catch guy, and the quarterback's got a big arm. He's got an NFL arm. It's he can make every throw, and so and they're getting about 170 rushing and 250 somewhere in there throwing the football, and so they're balanced, and like I said, they're doing a good job throwing the ball. He's got a pretty good QB rating, 158-ish for the quarterback's QB rating. Or not rating, but efficiency rating.
Kyle, I think a lot of fans have had this game circled on their calendar as a rematch of the championship game. Is there a revenge factor, anything after that game last year?
No, two different teams, two different matchups. We got a lot of new faces. They got a lot of new faces. So I don't think there's necessarily that element. We certainly remember the sting of that loss. I'm not going to, not pretending like it never happened, but it's more just going through your normal preparation process and preparing like we have been for the last several games and not deviating from that.
Kyle, maybe even dating back to Boise State when Chris Peterson was there, what makes him so hard to combat, with whatever team that he's at or whatever roster that he has?
Well, they're very disciplined. He has does a great job, particularly with openers. I mean, their first quarter, they've scored 97 points in the first quarter, by far their most productive quarter of the season. When you look at it, the first and third quarter, they're most productive. But they do a great job with their openers, and the scheme he has is just really solid, and it's always balanced. That's another thing. To me, as a former D coordinator, it's always tougher to defend the teams that are balanced, and he has certainly been balanced through the years. Really believes in the run game.
In the game last year here, it was it was just a tough physical game. Do you see that as kind of the trend against Washington, and going into that, do you think it's going to be just as as tough?
I would say, yeah. They're a physical team year in and year out. That's something that they pride themselves in, like we do, and so it should be a physical contest.
Your four guys that could have gone to the NFL last year, Julian, Lucky, Bradley, Zach, have they actually improved this year? Do you see them having raised their stock in the NFL?
To me, without a doubt, what I think doesn't matter, but if I'm making the evaluation, then the answer is a resounding yes. I think they're all positioned themselves better. We still got a lot of football left. We're only 2/3 of the way through, but I think right now that you would have to say that yes, they've improved their position.
I can just talk about Tyler Huntley a little bit. And was it beneficial to get him some action this week rather than have him sit? And
It was beneficial to get him some action, and just as beneficial to give him the second half off. I mean, it was kind of both ends there, and I thought Coach Ludwig did an outstanding job of tailoring the offense to his state of physical wellness. There's some things we took off his plate and supplemented that with Jason Shelley. I thought that was a really good plan of attack, and Andy's to be commended for how that went down. And then in the second half, didn't play at all. The plan was if we were able to get a stop on the first drive of the second half, the opening drive, then we were going to go ahead and rest Tyler and just let Jason take over, or Drew Lisk, as the case may be. But if we had not got a stop, then it probably would have been different, at least for the first drive.
Coach, Washington's defense, one of the best in the nation last year, lost a lot of guys to the NFL. Do you still evaluate them as the same, or have they kind of maybe taken a step back with new guys?
Well, the scheme is outstanding. They're well coached. They're disciplined. There is a lot of new faces, like you mentioned, but they're still in the top half of the league in most every defensive category. So they're still playing solid defense.
Zach Moss is obviously a special running back, but one thing that stands out about the backfield this year is just how many different players have been running the ball. Like against Cal on Saturday, you had 11 different players have at least one carry. Has this been the deepest backfield that you've had while you've coached here?
Gosh, I'd have to think about it and go back and look at the rosters, but I know that we got a lot of guys contributing right now, and they're giving us quality carries and quality play, not just carrying the football, but pass protecting and routes and that type of thing. And so it's good to be able to supplement Zach and not have him have to carry the ball 30 times a game, because that's a heavy load. You get up around 300 carries for a season. That's a heavy workload. And so to be able to supplement his runs with those other two or three guys has been a big positive for us.
Yeah, you got two brothers squaring off this week. Well, they don't go head-to-head because they play the same position, and Puka and Samson Nakua. What have you seen from Puka this year, and how close were you guys getting him when he opened up his recruitment after decommitting from USC?
Well, we thought we were in good shape, relatively speaking, as far as him being an in-state guy and having interest in us. We never thought that he was ours or anything like that. We were just in the hunt for him all the way to the end. At least that was our impression. He's a very good player. We've got 7 or 8 catches this year, I think, so he hasn't been used extensively, but he's a talent. I mean, all you got to do is watch his high school highlights, and was a high school phenom here in the state of Utah, and he's got a lot of good football ahead of him. And then we love Samson. Samson's a valuable member of our team without a doubt. Not only receiving wise, but blocking wise. He's a tenacious blocker down the field. One of our best downfield blockers at the wideout position.
Kyle, you guys have obviously had really talented defenses over the last couple of decades. Is there anything unique about this year's defense as opposed to some of the other ones that you've had over the years?
Probably that there's really no holes in it. I mean, there's no spot where you can say, hey, that could get exposed. I mean, we feel like, and we don't have all the answers, and we're still a work in progress. But where are you going to attack them? I mean, the front is good, every level. First level, second level, third level. The defense is playing well, and they're really, I mean, there's a good vibe on the whole team. But the defense really seems to be really cohesive right now.
You're getting close as a program to the 500 mark in Pac-12 play over these 9 seasons. Can you reflect on that climb a little bit?
Yeah, it was a tough transition. I mean, it was going from G5 to P5 is that's a big undertaking, and it takes time. and it's all about recruiting. Because that's you got to build your roster and continually upgrade it. And we knew going in that it was going to be a challenge. And we also knew that the biggest challenge was going to be the perimeter, the skill guys, because that's where we were furthest behind. And we think we've closed the gap considerably. But like I said, it was like spanning the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's a big jump. And so it's been a long, hard journey, but proud of our assistant coaches and the way we've just continued to recruit and build year in and year out. Still a work in progress, though. You've never arrived, unless you're PK. Yeah.
Kyle, is it still a week-to-week battle, or has Jason Shelley kind of asserted himself as that number 2 quarterback?
Week to week, but he sure made a positive impression in the game on Saturday. And the reason he was the supplementer to Tyler is because of his running ability. And Tyler gave us everything we needed throwing the ball. And so what Tyler lacked in being able to run the ball this particular week, Jason fit the bill better on that. But to answer your question, as far as the true number 2, that will be a battle to continue. We'll continue on.
What does Jason need to do throwing the ball to lock that up?
Be a little more accurate in practice. Now, Jason seems to elevate his game in the games. I mean, he's a guy that really can, his athleticism and he's got a confident air about him that he's one of those guys that when the bright lights are on, he actually, gets even better. But just making sure that Andy can feel comfortable with his read progression, putting the ball in the right spot and going to the right guy, and really that's what it boils down to. And Drew Lisk is the guy that he's competing with, and they each have their own strengths. And Jason's obviously the better runner. Drew's a little more accurate thrower in practice, so it kind of boils down to just judging the entirety and making a call, and it's subjective, for certain.
Hey, Kyle, what's so different about November football? I know there's a lot of challenges with, who's playing and such and ramifications and that, but what are the challenges of coaching in November?
Nothing really. We don't really pay attention to what month it is. I mean, that you hear about October and November and September. I mean, it's all the same to us as far as our preparation. You do have some personnel challenges as the season wears on due to injury. I mean, that's something that you got to continually face. But, we don't change. And we do shorten practice a little bit. And I think everyone in the country probably is in the same boat there as the season wears on and you start to get down towards the end, you start to back off and try to preserve them as well as you can. But one really positive thing this season is our defense is only averaging like 54 snaps a game. And I've said that before, and that, we've played 8 games, but they have the wear and tear of probably 5 games because of the way we're controlling the football. And so that defensively really helps you out. But you got to make slight modifications, but no wholesale changes as the season wears on.
Kyle, kind of going off that, how, I guess, unsettling is it for a defense to not be able to get off the field the way your offense is putting other teams in positions this year with long, extended drives?
For the opponent?
Yeah,
very unsettling. I mean, that wears the defense out. And we had, in the first half, I think we had 4 drives that averaged I think it was 89 yards and 10 plays and, all touchdowns. And that's demoralizing for a defense to have to be out there and just not get a stop and just, continue to get pounded on. And so that's a great job by our offense. And a great deal of our defensive success is attributed to the offense and how they're controlling the football. It works, in harmony with each other.
It took many years to arrive, but, you keep at it and see what happens.
What are you going to be for Halloween, by the way?
I think I'm going to go as a football coach.
Gotcha. All right.
Do you recruit much in the Northwest?
By referral, yes. We don't have. It's not one of our primary areas. You have primary areas and secondary areas. We do have it's a secondary area for us, but typically we've got to have a referral or a reason that or find out there's a reason for a player in that area that would be a good fit at Utah and would want to explore the possibilities. And so you can't spread yourself too thin in recruiting. That's something that you got to make sure of. And so we focused on our footprint, but that's something where we dabble. That's an area that we dabble in.
And so the Northwest, Oregon and Washington in particular, they've come into Utah and successfully recruited a couple of players. Is that more of a thing, or is that more recent?
Well, I'd have to see the numbers, and I think the numbers will tell you that we have an escalating amount of Division I prospects coming out of the state of Utah, and that number seems to climb year in and year out. And I think we're in the top, maybe 10 or 12 in the country as far as sheer numbers of recruits. And so it's really a numbers game. You go where the players are. And so I think that people are realizing that we have a pretty good nucleus of players here in the state of Utah.
And then what are you going to be for Halloween?
Next question.
With the success you guys are having on the field, are you noticing a positive trend on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, the short answer is yeah, but oftentimes there's a lag effect, because a lot of the recruiting is wrapped up for this year. I mean, there's still some guys that haven't committed, but it really, if you look at the numbers, impacts the next cycle more so than the one you're in currently. And but it could have an effect on some of the last, the guys that are still on the fence that haven't made a final decision. But typically, you get your recruiting pop, after a successful season. Now, it's still 4 games left, so in the regular season, we don't want to assess this season too early. But so far, it's been pretty good.
With as many as 6 games left, any closer to deciding when Bam's going to see his first action?
Yeah, we were close last week to utilize him. If Darren Paulo had not been able to go, he would have played the entire game. And so you're right, there's a possibility of 6. And so it's getting to the time where it's a daily conversation. I mean, we're trying to figure it out, and you still have a possibility of injury. I mean, that's always a possibility, but you don't want to, like I said before, we want to maximize it. It's not that easy to predict when you'll need them, or it's just a situation where we're getting to the point now where if you don't see him this week, you will definitely see him obviously down the stretch, and that's as clear as I can make it. And that's not very clear. I understand that, but we're just trying to maximize. And it's not only him. There's 2 or 3 other guys that are in that threshold area that we want to keep under the 5 games.
You're the second best team in terms of time of possession this season. Are you seeing a little bit more juice from your defense because they haven't been on the field this much this season?
Yeah, without a doubt, they're fresher, and that's not only time of possession but scoring points. I mean, we're putting points on the board. It's so much easier to play defense when you're ahead than if you're behind, and so that's working hand in hand. I did notice that we're second to, I think it's Wisconsin is number 1, and so. You look at there's many things I look at that I don't ever bring up, and points per minute and differential of offensive snaps to defensive snaps. I think we're like 13 differential as far as offensive snaps compared to what we're playing on D. So there's a lot of things you look at that are important, but that is certainly, you're right on the money there, that the defense is gets juiced up when they're when the offense controls the ball and they're sitting on the sidelines for 6, 7, 8 minutes of real time, and that's a positive. Lets them get rejuvenated.
So have you made different decisions and changed the rotation, especially in the defensive line, because of that?
Yep, we have, and not only the D line, but the corner spots, and we have some guys that we rotate in, and that's factored into that.
Is that planned before the game, or is that real time as the game progresses, you make those calls?
We have a general plan prior to the game of what the rotation is going to be and who's going to play what percentage of the snaps, but that can get skewed during the course of the game due to a lot of factors, but it is a pre-game plan that we have in place each week.
Kyle, outside of wins and losses, is there a stat that you geek out about after a game?
Well, turnover margin.
Seriously, is that like your number 1?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if so, is that just because it can generally tell the tale of the game?
Yes. Yeah, such a critical stat. Yeah.
Bradley and I has really kind of stepped his game up the last few weeks. How much do you weigh just giving him the green light to get after the quarterback rather than playing disciplined?
Yeah, we have given him more freedom this year, and it was it's because of he just keeps getting better and better. I mean, he's playing his best football, in my opinion, as a Ute this season. And you construct things, and it's not, you don't just say, hey, take a chance whenever you want, but you structure it and you make your calls to turn him loose. So it's controlled whatever the word is, chaos or just giving him the option to do different things. And so we have guys cover for him. If we know we're going to turn him loose, then we got a guy in position that, hopefully if he makes an inside move and the quarterback escapes, we got a guy wrapping around to cover for him. Yeah.
Is there any concern, or have you tried to do anything different addressing the team? Because you had a couple of pretty easy games before USC, and it didn't go well, obviously. And you've had a couple of games where you've really overwhelmed teams here in the lead up to what looks like another tough game with Washington.
Well, hopefully we as coaches, our job is to get them ready every week and never overlook anybody. And I still don't believe we overlooked USC. I mean, we didn't play our best football, but I don't think it was a matter of overlooking them. You'd be crazy to overlook SC in the Coliseum. I mean, who does that? So I don't think that that was the case. But yeah, it's a constant. As a coach, you're constantly working on the mindset and the psyche of the team and making sure they're in a good place and understanding that each week is a new challenge, and what happened last week is last week, and you got to move on and be just as disciplined and be just as into your preparation and your work ethic as any week. You just try to be consistent from week to week. Okay, thank you.